All right, all right. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for checking in on our live discussion and interview this evening. If you can do me a favor and please subscribe to our channel. Also, make sure you click on the notification, turn on your notifications so you can stay up to date to all of our new videos and content. So we would definitely appreciate that. This evening is a special evening for me. I get to talk to one of my new favorite artists. Just discovered him not too long ago and also became a customer of his. But also, we're celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month. And so it's an honor and a pleasure to have this gentleman with us to honor, the culture. We have Jose Manuel Cruz with us. So thank you for joining me and sharing this, giving me this opportunity to just hear your story and have a really cool discussion with you, Jose.
Well, thank you. I greatly appreciate you, Marlon, not only as an advocate for the arts, but also as one of my collectors, and for this opportunity to be able to share, my experiences in my life as an artist, and especially as a Latino artist.
Absolutely, absolutely. And speaking of, just getting your story and your background, let's start with your roots. So where are you from originally?
Okay, so I was born and raised in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay.
I'm Puerto Rican Colombian. My father is from Isabela in Puerto Rico, and my
Okay.
mother from Cartagena in Colombia. And I have 5 siblings, 4 brothers and a sister, 2 brothers older, 2 brothers younger, and my sister's younger.
Okay.
And Newark is usually known as the Brick City.
Right.
And, it gets its nickname from all the projects and all the brick buildings that were around, but mostly all the projects that were there. I mean, it was so many. So
Right. That's interesting because I didn't know you from Newark, and I just interviewed one of my closest friends who's an incredible artist. You may be familiar with Levi Robinson,
yes.
and he's actually from Newark as well. He's from Newark, New Jersey. So this is kind of cool. I'm seeing this little theme that's kind of coming together organically with folks representing from Newark. I didn't know Newark had so much talent, coming from Jersey, that part of Jersey.
Yeah.
But so speaking of your work, I just wanted to, show you. This is been one of my favorite pieces. That obviously this is for the viewers who I just I had this commissioned. Jose did this for me in May 16th, as you guys can see there. May 16th, 2020. This was one of my favorite. This is the original piece that I purchased this year. And so this is it's been really special for me to have. I wanted to really get into, more other disciplines. I've been buying a lot of canvas art, and so now I want to venture out and get into sculptures and just start getting other mediums and disciplines of art. So how long have you been painting, and when did that start? When did your visual art journey start?
So let me tell you, I know might sound crazy. I know some people can remember things they did when they were like really young, but I actually remember in 1st grade, I was drawing Spider-Man, and of course, and I know what it looked like back then, and it didn't really look like Spider-Man, but
Right.
of course my classmates thought that it looked like Spider-Man because we're in the 1st grade. So I'm drawing these like barrel-head people with just crosshatch lines going, vertical and horizontal, which created the web, and that was Spider-Man. And luckily for me, one of my mentors and my daughter's godfather, Professor Bernard, he was my elementary school art teacher. So he basically noticed that I had this talent. And then what happened was that when I would finish my work in my classes, he will allow me to come to the studio, the classroom, but we call it the studio, which is what I do with my students. I call it the classroom, the studio. And I would sit in there with the 8th graders doing the work that they were doing. And then he introduced me to these technical pens, which were called rapidographs, which is still made today. So I started using his rapidographs, and I still actually have the set.
Okay.
He allowed me to use. So I started getting into
From first grade.
from third grade. This is third grade.
Third grade. Okay.
Yeah. And then my first piece that I did, which I still have up in the attic, I actually was the first piece that was at the Newark Museum. So ever since then, I mean, he kind of like nurtured me, took me under his wings, and was showing me everything. I did my first painting in fourth grade, and using tempera paint.
Okay.
And he was a great watercolor artist, so he introduced me into watercolors, which I always tell everybody that if you can master watercolor, every other medium can fall into place, because watercolors requires discipline and patience. And although there are methods out there, just like using a hair dryer and everything else like that, to be able to work at a faster pace by drying your pieces, you know, it definitely requires that. And then it lets you work in layers, because you have to work from light to dark. So you're building up the surfaces. You do the same thing in oils, and you can apply that same method with acrylics. So
Right.
and you know, other mediums. So from there, I got into arts high school. So that was my goal, to get into arts high school, which was the first visual and performing arts school in the country.
Okay.
And it's located in Newark. And such people as Sarah Vaughan went there, Melba Moore, Tisha Campbell, Savion Glover, Michael B. Jordan, one of the last, you know, that's really out there now doing his thing.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of others. Frankie Negron, who's one of the Latin musicians that's out now.
Yes.
So there's so many.
Yeah. That's cool. How much does Columbia, or your connection or ties to Columbia influence your art? Because I know I work for the State Department and Western Hemisphere Affairs, and one of our offices is the Columbia office. And when they have events, and just the decor in the office is so vibrant, the colors and the artwork. It's one of the destinations I want to visit. My neighbors from Colombia, and we often talk about Medellin and Bogota and different places. It's a lot safer, and they've cleaned it up a lot, from the Pablo Escobar days. So
yeah,
I want to convince my wife to take a trip there. I heard it's just beautiful, and I'm sure.
Now I've never been, unfortunately.
Okay.
I plan to go one of these days also, but it is definitely beautiful. I mean, the good thing is that when I get to visit my mother in New Jersey and my father, we get to talk about it, and she likes to discuss it and tell us stories about where she grew up and what it looks like and everything else like that. And just even a couple of weeks ago, my brother was on Google Earth trying to find the streets where she grew up and everything else like that. And I mean, so many things have changed.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that stuff, that cultural stuff that comes, it's embedded in my blood, and it comes out in my work. I know artists out there, they do a lot of research and everything else like that when they want to incorporate things in their work. Fortunately for me, it comes out in my work, and it's in my blood. And the research, I guess, is somewhere in there, and so it just comes out. I try not to do too much research on it.
Was it in your environment though? Did your parents have a lot of, did they promote or encourage you to get into art, or it was just something that you naturally gravitated towards?
I think that they always supported me no matter what. I think for them was, as long as we were getting good grades in school, that they would support us in any other thing that we wanted to do. So with the art, they knew that I had the talent, and with my mentors, my teachers, whether it was Professor Bernard or Lita Cardwell or Russell Murray or Ben Jones, all these different people who influenced me and are my mentors, they were there and they were supportive. I mean, all the other cultural things, we did, whether it's during Christmas time, going out and singing our Spanish Christmas carols and stuff like that, and, visiting our neighbors. I mean, the good thing was, and when I grew up, I lived right across the street from the school that I went to, but then there were 3 apartment buildings, and like all of our family basically lived in those. If not, they lived in the projects, which
Okay.
Brick City comes out from.
Right. So you're in Durham now?
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So tell me about your experience there. And so you're an art teacher right now, by profession.
Yes. I've been in education since 1986. So
Wow.
I started substitute teaching in '86 once I found out that I could work and be able to pay for school. Now, for those of you out there, it actually took me 12 years to get my degree, because I had to work during the day and then go to school at night. And sometimes whatever wasn't offered, it was only one course on a Saturday. Unfortunately, that's what took me so long. I just never gave up.
Way to keep at it.
And that's just basically, the gist of it when it came to being around, I guess, the culture.
Yeah.
And, growing up in Newark, in the urban city, it was a great experience.
Yeah. So you share with me, I'm really interested in getting into your graffiti writing background. And
wow.
So tell me some stories about, because I'm a really close friend. One of my best friends, he's a DJ, and I consider him like a music encyclopedia, and he's always like sharing different stories and he's always sending me music I've never heard, and movies and documentaries. And so he was the first person who sent me like Style Wars and all, but he knows that I'm into art and I love, all aspects of art. And so if I could see anything that gets back to the origin of it or beginning of movements, it's just really cool. So knowing that when you shared with me that you have, a background in graffiti writing, I was just like, whoa, I got to hear this.
Well, it kind of all started out, of course, in high school. This was when color copies first came out, where you can actually go. There was a store, an art store, drafting store on Washington Street in Newark, and this was across the street from Bamberger's, which is part of Macy's that they had there. And when they had their color copies, it was just like the biggest thing, because we were in high school, with our black books, creating graffiti and everything else like that, doing our tags. And my tag was Atom, ATOM, like an atom bomb. Right. And I was basically learning from those that were around me, such as Prince, which is this other artist named Manuel Acevedo. One of my best friends, Dwayne, his tag was Spin, and Malik, who's on Instagram now, and he does, cartooning and comic books and stuff like that. And being able to do that, and then learning and being around crews. Like there was some other crews in Newark, and there was this another graffiti artist. His name was Too Sweet Hakeem, and so I started doing a lot of airbrushing. Now, my mother and my father kept us in check, so I couldn't really go out there and do a lot of the other things that the other graffiti crews were doing. But I had to learn to stick to the canvas and stuff. So I started doing a lot of airbrushing, and there was this guy that had a store on one of the side street on Halsey Street, a silk screen store. He saw my cousin's hat that I had airbrushed and graffiti. And then he said, hey, can you get your cousin and come down to the store? I want to talk to him. So he basically hired me to do airbrush t-shirts. And this was when like Naughty by Nature was out with OPP, you're down with OPP. So that was like one of the bigger things, bigger songs that were out. So then a lot of people came into the store and they wanted all of these things done on there. And I would get $10, $20 tips, and I would get $3 per shirt from the boss guy. So then after a while, he was like, I can't pay you by the hour. I can't pay you by the shirt anymore, because I was making a lot of money. He was like, I got to pay you by the hour. Right. So I told him I couldn't do it, but then I got Too Sweet Hakeem the job there and introduced him to him, and then we started getting into silk screening t-shirts and everything else like that in Newark. So but the graffiti age was really big there. There was a gallery called City Without Walls,
Okay.
And they basically sponsored the first graffiti show for graffiti artists in Newark. And all the top names were there. I mean, I think I got really lucky because I used to hang out in the clubs and with my friends who were in the music business, listening to house music.
Okay.
There was a club in New York called the Garage.
Okay.
And fortunately for me, I was there the last night that they were open, and that's when Keith Haring was there, and he had did the whole club was done with Keith Haring, and who else was there? Madonna was there also. There were a lot of people there. I mean, it was packed, so I couldn't really see everybody, but
Yeah. Yeah. Man, you were part of history. I mean, you were part of a really powerful, movement. The Keith Harings, and did you have any run-ins, or were you around the Basquiat scene or Samo or any of that when
I wasn't as much as I wanted to be, put it that way.
Yeah.
But I think I've got lucky, and I like I said, I've been blessed to have met Grace Jones and have done 2 pieces for her.
Awesome.
And I know that, and I mean, she's a real cool, down to earth person. I got to meet her and met Paul Mooney, the comedian, and was able to photograph him at comedy at what is it? Good Nights. Let me show you something. Hold on 1 minute.
Cool.
This was at Caroline's. So this was I don't know how good you can see it. Hold on.
I can.
So these are just some images of him and a little collage that I had done from the images, even with what's his name, Charlie Murphy.
Yes.
Over there. So
I see it. Yeah, I see it. I can see it.
So when he would come to Caroline's, his manager would call me and say, Jose, hey, we're going to be at Caroline's. Can you come down and take some photos of us? And I'd be like, sure. I didn't have to pay to get in. And I sat in the back and listened to the comedy and just photographed and gave them the shots and everything else like that. So there's an opportunity for me to do that.
That had to have been a dope time in history, just, to be a part of that era and to be in those scenes, that's really cool. Who were your favorites during that time?
Well, of course, Keith Haring, this guy right here. Remember I showed you earlier my magazine, that New York Times magazine, the famous magazine that I had, Basquiat, and basically just the people that I was around. I mean, of course, Andy Warhol, people that I read about in high school, from Matisse to all, the old masters and everything. But mostly those people that were there with me, my teachers, my mentors, Alita Carwell, Ben Jones, Professor Bernard. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I mean, just my friends from being around them and, and knowing was just going into the city, going to New York. I mean, going on the PATH train, going to the clubs, the whole nightlife thing, basically influenced me.
So were you traditionally trained or are you self-taught?
No, I mean, I'm going to say a little bit of both.
Okay.
I mean, I did go, I do have my bachelor's in fine arts. So I did go to, attended Jersey City State College, which is now New Jersey City University. Okay. It was a small school. I did get into other universities, art, like Philadelphia College of Art and stuff like that. But I wanted to stay close to my friends, and we all decided, hey, we're just going to go to Jersey City.
Right.
And start there. So a lot of that, it's great to know, but I think the rawness that in my work just comes from my culture. And you take all those things that the institutions teach you, and you just dib and dab wherever you need to, and if it applies to your work, it applies. I always used to joke when people used to talk about the colors in my paintings and everything else like that. I used to say, that's because I'm Latino, because it's in our culture. And and a lot of people have told me that, you know, where I get my palettes from, you know, the colors that I use and everything else like that. And that all comes natural also. I think that somebody throws colors at me or whatever palette, I'm like, I'm going to be able to create something out of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's cool, man. So can you share with me or share with us your experience with Wendy Williams? How did that come about?
Okay, so that came about when she was on the radio on WBLS, and she
Okay.
was looking for an artist. A friend of mine sent me a email saying in a phone call, text, "Hey, Wendy's looking for an artist. You should submit something."
Okay.
And then so I submitted my work, and then she was on the radio. She made an announcement. I didn't even know. Somebody called me and said, "Hey, you need to listen to this." They recorded it, and she said, "I want this artist." And one reason was because she thought that my work resembled some of the stuff that Keith Haring did in the colors.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you the first piece I did for her.
Okay.
And this was actually the study that I did for her. So,
so you know, now that you mentioned Keith Haring, I do see a lot of, or I do see, especially in the piece that you did for me, I see the influence there in your line work. That's amazing, by the way. That's really dope.
So basically, she was all about symbolizing about, you know, love, money, and fame. So this is supposed to be her husband, her ex-husband, Kevin. And then this was her son, little Kev.
Okay.
And then there's the money sign, the love sign, and of course the music symbol there.
Nice.
And I actually had done this in full color. And then after she saw the full color one and she changed the color scheme in her house, she was like, "Oh, change the colors up, Jose." And that piece is actually a 6 feet by 4 foot piece that I did for her. And so after that, I mean, I did a lot of things for her, for basically just for a house. I mean, from painting her kitchen cabinets to doing some abstract work for her when she wanted something abstract, or painting, let's say the last thing I did, I remember painted, she brought this huge Santa Claus mannequin, and she was like, "Can you paint him black for me? You know, make him look African-American." So I did. And then she had a huge Betty Boop statue also, and she wanted me to do the same thing. So it was just small tasks like that that she would hire me for. And one of the last pieces I did for her is this piece I'm going to show you in photograph.
Okay.
It's the piece in the background here. Oh, there we go. Maybe I'll hold it back more. And there's some gold leafing in there and everything else like that. But the good thing is that I actually still have the color studies that I did for her on canvas.
Okay.
So this was done in 2006. So this is one of them. And she loves the leopard print.
Very nice.
And this was another one. Whoop. Let me see. There.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this is kind of like the combination we went with this one when we just changed the colors up.
Okay.
So so she wanted all those bright colors and stuff like that. So
colors in those.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, I've been blessed to not only with Wendy Williams. I'm a photographer also, so she hired me. Yeah, she hired me to do her parents' 50th wedding anniversary. So I did that for her also. And but like I said, I've been blessed from meeting and doing something for Tony Braxton to Little Richard, Corinne Bailey Ray.
Nice.
You know, of course, Savion Glover, I did a piece for him also.
Oh, wow.
Let me show you real quick. And I'll tell you about, this is a piece I did for Fat Joe.
Okay. That's dope.
Him there. So he had the piece, and then I had him sign. I did a print of it. I had him sign it.
That's huge. I didn't realize. I see in the bottom.
Yeah.
So that's a nice size piece here you got there.
Yeah, I think it was like 24 by 36.
Nice.
This is the piece I did for Savion.
Okay.
And this was when he performed with McCoy Tyner.
Okay.
This is a piece I did for Tony Braxton. And this was done in marker on canvas.
And that piece, that's oil?
No, this is at marker. Marker.
That's a marker.
Yeah, markers on canvas.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Nice.
this is a piece I did for Corinne Bailey Ray.
Oh man, that's nice.
And that was done in marker also on canvas.
Okay.
This is a piece I did for Dwight Eubanks.
Very nice.
And this was done in airbrush and acrylic paint.
Okay.
And then a couple of years, well, I wouldn't say a couple of years, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, I had the opportunity. There was a Broadway play, A Streetcar Named Desire, and Blair Underwood was the main actor with Nicole Ari Parker and a couple of other actors. And it was on Broadway. They had a contest on Facebook and said, send in a video doing your best Stella scene and you could win. So
Okay.
I sent it in and I actually won. So I got 2 tickets to go see the show, and then I met Blair Underwood backstage. We spent about a half an hour talking. They recorded me doing the Stella scene on the set and everything. So I always tell people I was on Broadway, and nobody was in the audience, but I was still on Broadway. And
They can't take that away from you.
And that was the piece I did for him there. It's kind of blurred, but
yeah.
He's a real cool guy. So
yeah, I can tell. He seems like he's a really cool, down to earth guy.
Yeah.
You know, switching gears really quick.
Yeah.
Can you just share with us, you know, why I have, you know, my personal belief on why advocating for artists and the arts are, you know, is so important. But can you just share, you know, with us why advocating for artists, visual artists, you know, arts as a culture, why it's so important and why it's so necessary?
Well, like I always say, art saves lives. And I say that because there's so many things. I mean, you think about it. I mean, everything around us is created by an artist, whether it's the t-shirts we wear, the clothing we wear, the bags we carry, the sneakers that we wear also. Everything is made by an artist. Regardless whether you want to call him an engineer or architect or whatever it is, but it's, there's an artist. And not only that, but the visual arts gives you a chance to be expressive when you need to. It's fulfilling. It's gratifying. I mean, it just takes you to another world. And depending on how deep you really want to get in it, I always say that I like to picture myself almost like if I was like Adam Ant, and be able to shrink myself so small that I can jump on the canvas and go through all the colors and go back and forth and see the different dimensions in the colors. And I think that's one of the things that I like to create in my work, is to be able to create different depths and different dimensions, because as artists, we need that extra voice, whether it's social issues that we're trying to portray and make people aware. So I would say that all the arts basically is bringing awareness to all the social injustice that's going on, or to all the happy moments, that if you want to celebrate something, or you want to celebrate a life for somebody, you can do it through the arts. So the advocates out there just like you, advocating for us. It's important. We need you guys. I think without you guys, we'll just be in a little room painting and nobody will see our work, so we need you guys, because you guys put our work out there.
Yeah, it's very important. It's very important. You touched on some really important, topics. And also, I like to look at it as art is life, and there's experiences that you will have with art that will provide certain learning moments and education, and as an educator and an artist, I think you'll appreciate this. I was watching a TED Talk. I saw a TED Talk a few years ago, and this gentleman was sharing a story about this choreographer. I forget her name, but she's a famous choreographer who went on to do the choreography for Cats, for the stage play Cats. And he was saying how he met her. She was on the board of directors of this organization that he was a part of. And so he was asking her, her story and how she got to be, this famous choreographer, and how she got to this place. And so she shared her story with you know, her beginning, and that she struggled in school academically. And she struggled so much that early on in her beginning stages in school, her teachers didn't think they didn't think that she had the ability to learn. And so they expressed this to her mother. Her mother, you know, refused to accept it. She took her to see a therapist. And when she saw the therapist, when they got to the office, the therapist, within a few minutes of talking to her, just noticing the movements of the daughter, this choreographer, he asked the mother, he said, "Can we step outside for a minute?" They stepped outside, and he said, "I just want you to monitor and look at your daughter inside the room." And before they left, he turned the music on, and they went outside and watched the daughter. And I would say, he said within like 2 or 3 minutes, she started dancing, right? And so what he told the mother is, he said, "Your daughter doesn't have a learning disability. She just she needs a different motivator. She's inspired by art and dance and movement." Mm-hmm. And so she immediately signed her up for dance classes, and kind of the rest is history. She ends up becoming this great dancer, then choreographer, and then this now world-renowned choreographer that's worked on Cats and these other projects. But if her mother had owned that and said that, yeah, my daughter has a disability, and wrote her off and all of that, she wouldn't have become who she became. But I think we all have different learnings. You know, there are different learning styles, and we're all motivated differently. And I think that it's important that we provide this option. You know, he was saying, the whole TED Talk was about how the modern day, or the education system, is failing our students because it was really based off the Industrial Revolution. And all of those jobs are kind of like fizzled away. Right. Like the arts, you know, visual arts, you know, dance, film, they should kind of be at the forefront now in school, just as powerful and prevalent as English and the math and the sciences. Because the real wealth creators right now, you know, and moving forward, are going to be those who are creators and the creatives. Right now, the wealthiest people are those who are getting paid for their ideas, right. You know, creative thinking and, you know, their creative ability. So the school systems are really behind. They have to really catch up. And I was interested, as an educator and an artist, you know, how you felt about that, and what do you really emphasize with your students?
Well, I have to agree with you 100%, actually 500% with that. You know, I had this amazing friend of mine who passed away about 1.5 years ago. His name was Jerry Gant from North, sculptor, but graffiti artist. I mean, he had, you know, once you saw Jerry's work, you just knew it was his work. And when I tell you he was amazing, I mean, like, he can just create anything out of anything. That's how amazing he was. But, you know, it goes back to, like you said, with the education. When I talk to my students, I always tell them I'm the oldest student in the room, because I want them to learn from me, but I'm learning from them at the same time. Right. And my job as an art educator is to open up their eyes to see that they all have talent. I mean, I remember talking to Faith Ringo and hearing her say this also, and even Picasso, that they always wanted to go back to drawing like a little kid. They didn't want to worry about, oh, I got to draw, make sure that my line is straight and everything else like that. I even talk to my students now, and I tell them, I'm like, you guys don't have to use a ruler if you don't want to for right now. I said, we're doing something like, you know, perspective, or if we're doing some kind of mechanical drawing, then we can use the ruler. Yeah. But other than that, I try not to get them to use those things, and I try to allow them to be as creative as they can. I have to build them up and let them know, because the arts are so important, because it builds you up. And like I said to one of my coworkers before, without the arts, these kids wouldn't be able to make it in the core classes in math and English, because we kind of keep them sane to be able to stay focused on what they need to do in those classes to be able to build them up. But once they leave and they go out there into the real world, they realize that being creative and having a growth mindset is so important. You know, all of the core classes, and they're important, don't get me wrong. I know that English and math is important. Right. But a lot of times when you're in those classes, I always think about like the content in those classes is almost like having like a fixed mindset, because 1 + 1 is 2, and we know that, and a verb is a verb and an adjective is adjective, and so on. But when you leave those classes and you go into your discovery classes or your elective classes, whether it's the arts, the dance, the music, and everything else like that, I mean, it's endless. It's to infinity and beyond, like like Buzz Lightyear. I mean, it's the truth. So that's why the arts is so important, and they should be in the forefront.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, did you want to, what do you have working on? What are you working on now, or what do you plan on working on in the future?
I'm still working on my donuts here. I'll show you my last couple pieces that I have here.
Okay.
These were one of the last 2 pieces that I created.
Oh, nice.
Let me see if I can get this light in here a little closer.
Yeah, very cool. For those of you who are just tuning in, I just want to show this piece again that I was able to get commission from Jose in May. One of my first sculptural pieces in my collection. I love it. I just love the colors and like you said, now I kind of see the Keith Haring and everything. But,
I remember I was just watching a video of 2 legends, Jerry Gant, who had passed away, and another friend of mine named Manuel Acevedo. And they were discussing the graffiti days and talking about biting when you bit somebody's work. And being that, what biting was basically when, like they said, when you take somebody else's work or you steal their style, but you basically don't give them the credit.
Right.
And I've been influenced by, like I said, everybody that I have touched and seen as an artist, they influence me, and and it comes out in my work, just like in this black and golden piece that I have here.
Yeah, I love that one too. I've seen that one. You posted that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of us, I would venture out and say, everyone's influenced by someone else. It's one of those things where you're right. You should, if it's a clear influence, you should, pay homage, and you should, pay respect to the person that influenced you. But, art is one of those things that it's fluid and it's flowing, and we're all been influenced by each other. So I just feel like, there's really no such thing as just like, you're not, unless you blatantly you can steal art, but if you're taking different pieces of style, and incorporating into your art, I think everyone kind of does that. Even the masters, to a certain degree. Yeah, you'll have your signature, but everyone is kind of being influenced by something.
Yeah, this is a new piece that I had done also. I haven't posted it because this is the first time I've actually posted it publicly. But it's a piece that's going to be, it was in the process of going to be made into a mural.
Okay.
If things work out the way it's supposed to, that's in the works. But
that's beautiful,
a lot of things that I do. I mean, even like a small piece that I have here. Small little canvas that I work on, but those are the things that I work on. I'm working on a new series. Well, this isn't a new series here, but I'm working on a new series called Flower Powers, and I can go get one of those canvases. But these are my women in gold pieces.
Nice.
So as a photographer, I photograph them, and then all the gold work is done in hand painted. So those are them, and the flower pieces and basically have to do with exploring basically the female body. I mean, women give birth, and of course, they come through the birth canal, through the vagina. So my pieces basically are influenced by that, and almost like when you talk about being influenced, like similar to Georgia O'Keeffe's work. So I try to concentrate on that and working with color where it's a series of 9 paintings. They're 36 by 48. And the 9 symbolizes the 9 months that, the birth cycle.
Right.
So that's what they symbolize. And I'm going to go get one of those. But before I do that, I'll show, I remember years ago, this was, my oldest daughter now is 25. So this was a series that I did. This was 26 years ago.
Okay.
I had a dream that I had to do these 9 paintings of Jesus Christ on a cross.
Mm.
And then I did the 9 paintings, one a day. And after the 9th day, that's when I found out that my wife was pregnant with my oldest daughter. And that's why her middle name is Destiny. But I call the series A Dream of Fate in 9 days.
Nice.
So, but give me 1 minute. I'm going to go get one of those.
And when you come back, I want to hear your Smithsonian story, how that came
Okay,
about.
great. All right, be right back.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. So,
oh wow, okay.
This is done in oil, and so I tried to work with, the symbolism, of course. Hopefully, you can see it better there.
Yeah.
Move this chair out the way, and and I play around with the colors, as you can see. I'll bring it closer. And everything like that. And I guess in a way I just let it flow. I love music, so I'm always playing music when I'm working, all different styles of music.
And you said that's part of the series or no?
Yeah, that's part of the series. That's one of 9 that I'm working on. So I have 3 completed and I have 6 more to go.
Nice.
And as artists, it's just a process. I mean, I've had my 6 canvases there, and they've been there since let's see, I've had them for about maybe 4 or 5 months already.
Yeah.
And they're there. And now I know what I want to do, but it's like I have to get my mindset still has to be in the right place in order for me to start. I mean, sometimes I'll get up at 2 in the morning and I'll start working. On something, and go to sleep at 5 and then wake back up, and then you just keep going, and when you're in that mode and in that mood, nothing can stop you, and I think as artists, one of my mentors who passed away, Russell, always used to tell me, Jose, always create for art's sake, or for basically for your sake. It's not about, you're not creating for an exhibition or show. You just keep creating, and when that time comes, then guess what? You'll have a body of work ready. But
absolutely.
There are times where I can do paintings and just do the backgrounds for 20 paintings, and they'll sit there for 6 months to a year until I'm ready to work on them. And then when I'm ready, I can actually know that I can work on all 20 one at a time, or 2 at a time, and get them done.
Right.
So, but let me tell you the Smithsonian part.
Yes.
Okay, and like I said, I always put now, blessed to be blessed, because I thank God that I am, and I'm working God's work. Put it that way.
Absolutely.
So they were doing this thing at the Smithsonian, at the Anacostia Smithsonian, and then what happened was that a friend of mine, who was Rafael Suba, is another advocate, and they were talking to him, and they asked him also about another artist, and they were coming down to North Carolina and checking different artists out, and I was one of those artists. And they were looking at my Vigilante masks that I had done and everything else like that. And then with me, when they came here, I was showing them different things. I said, wait, let me just show you one more piece. And this last piece was this piece that I did on racial profiling.
Okay.
Not only living down here, but living in New Jersey. I mean, I'm getting pulled over by the police, and for saying I got pulled over by a state trooper telling me that, I said, well, what just pull me over for? He was like, I didn't think you can see me out the rear view mirror, because he said that I was too low in my seat. And then I told him, I said, well, if I couldn't see you, why did I pull over? You didn't have your sirens on, so I pulled over. So, you know, things like that. So that basically was the piece that I showed them was, and I don't have a photo of it here, but you know, it's if you go to the Smithsonian website, if you just type in racial profiling or my name, it'll pop up.
Okay.
And, the piece consists of 3 different panels and a police car. And I bought a toy police car and I rigged it so when you press the button on the top, the siren goes off for 6 seconds. That symbolized you getting pulled over. Racial profile and getting pulled over. And in those 3 panels, there were the first 2 panels had 9 profiles on this side and 9 profiles on this side, African and Latino and women.
Right.
And the middle panel had these little police cars in there and different portraits also. And there were news articles in the background that had to do with racial profiling. So that was the last piece, and they saw that piece, and they were like, "Oh, we're definitely going to put this in the show." So I had that piece, and I had the two of the Vigilante masks in the exhibition, and in 2016 they acquired the racial profiling piece. So I was just, you know, in awe, and I was honored because that's, to me, that's like a musician winning, you know, a Grammy, or I mean, it's not as big as the Nobel Peace Prize, but you know, it's still a great thing, and I'm blessed.
Yes, and it's always, you know, cool and awesome to be acknowledged as well, and for your work to be seen outside of your community. You know, one of my favorite quotes that I heard years ago, and it kind of resonated with me and stuck with me, is that an artist's work isn't done until it's been seen. You know, so it's one of those things that I try to encourage. You know, one of my again, my best friend is Levi Robinson, who is a very successful artist right now. You know, before he and another friend of mine, Rob Douglas, who's also an artist, we had to encourage him to kind of, you know, break out of his shell and get out of that, you know, isolation space and start promoting and selling his work, because he was a phenomenal artist, but he would have like 40 or 50 pieces of his work just laying around the house for years. And never, you know, I don't know if it's a confidence thing or I'm sure, you know, just as, you know, well as any artist is that, you know, it's a vulnerable thing, you know, exposing and sharing your art for criticism or for someone to scrutinize or dissect. You're revealing a piece of you and yourself, and you know, it's not easy for everyone, and it wasn't easy for him, you know, to really show his art to other people. And so once we encouraged him and kind of got him over that hurdle, you know, he exhibited in one show, a small community art center, and it went really well, and kind of we had an aha moment, the light bulb went off, and he's been rocking ever since. But it's one of those things though that we talk about, those 40 or 50 pieces that he had laying around the house, they weren't complete. You know, they're not complete until someone's had the chance to see it. You know, so you really, you know, it's one thing to create art, but you have to create it and also share it with the world. You know, let it be seen, and from a, you know, business perspective, you know, let it be bought, you know, and create more room for you to bring in more inspiration to create more art. You know, I really, you know, everyone has their own journey and their own outlook, but I really don't like when artists hoard their work. It's like, no, let it, sell it, let it go, to create room for the universe to pour in more creativity into you, and for you to create new works of art. You know, because you know, and there's never a lack of creativity. You know, the universe and the creator has given us an abundance, you know, an endless supply of creativity. So we just have to, you know, believe in the law of, you know, sowing and reaping, and, you know, sow that work into the world and let, you know, new work come to you. But yeah, so I also, before we wrap up, you know, I wanted to ask you, um, who are your biggest influencers, when it comes to art? Or let me give you the top 5 question. Who are your top 5 GOAT level visual artists?
Wow.
It could be anywhere from the masters of modern art,
Well,
So,
I always like, besides Keith Haring and, Basquiat, Klimt, Gustav Klimt. I mean, just loved his work.
okay.
Of course, Professor Bernard, who's one of my elementary school art teacher. Ben Jones, whose work is very talks about social things that are going on, and I mean, it's so many. I mean, from different graffiti artists, which I don't know all their names,
Right.
that they're doing different work out there. Even like, even Bansky and Cause. I mean, because they're always doing these things that are just different. And some of those things that they do, as artists, you'd be like, wow, I could have thought about that. I could have. But I mean, there's so many out there. Even who else?
That's a good list. I mean, you
I don't know. There's a lot. I mean, like I said, and some of them I don't. I mean, even Matisse. I mean, Miro with his simplicity. We still got Kehinde Wale is out there. There's so many other young artists. Clarence Hayward, JP. Who else? I mean, there's so many. A friend of mine. I mean,
absolutely.
And you find so many of them on Instagram, and you know, and you get amazed by their work, and it's just like, wow, So I still just become the oldest student. No matter how old I'm going to be, I'm going to be the oldest student, because I want to make sure that I'm learning every day.
Absolutely, student always. I did want to ask you though, before I don't want to let this question slip.
Yeah.
With the current climate that we're in, socially, with the pandemic. How has that, affected your ability to showcase and sell your art? Have you come up with any innovative ways to, reach your customers, reach your collectors? Has it been a hindrance?
It has and it hasn't. I mean, it has. I think if you're into doing exhibitions and you need your audience there. Obviously, good thing for me is that I've gotten some new collectors, and some of my collectors now are like some of my ex-students that I've had, from years ago, and some of my classmates. And I always tell them, look, you can purchase. I like to get my work out there.
Right.
So I don't believe that my work is priced high compared to other artists that are out there, but I know one day it will be.
Right.
And because I want to be alive when my work is selling for $10,000 or more.
Right.
But so I encourage people to start collecting now, because and whether it's my work or any other young artist that's out there, I'm not calling myself young, but you know what I mean. But you need to start collecting work, start collecting work that belongs to your people, because it could be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. It could be tomorrow. I mean, who knows? And then instead of my work selling for $700 or $800, it's gonna be $7,000 or $8,000.
Yes.
And then you're gonna be like, oh wow, I wish I had collected his work when it was that price, because, like I always say, all of my work is original. I'm not going to be able to, that piece that you have, I'm not going to sit there and be able to create the same piece.
Right.
So whatever comes out, and then that's it. And then whoever purchases it, they're stuck with it, and that's a great thing, because then, like you said, it leaves room for me to be able to do something else.
Right.
I mean, I have work here, and I have a storage place that my wife got me, and she pays for, and she's like, all right, you need somewhere else to keep your work. So before it was on my walls, but a lot of that stuff now, that COVID stuff, the social media, Instagram or Facebook, that's what's helping me out to get my work out there. And you just got to keep posting it, and people like you, that are basically advocating for us. You see, you know, some artists that you like, and you're pushing us also. You're putting us on the map also.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that, because without you guys also, it's, you know, it's never going to be easy unless you're at the right place at the right time. And sometimes that takes a miracle.
Man, you said a lot. You know, that's one thing that I don't think is said enough. It's not easy. This journey, it's not easy, but I always say it's worth it. You know, it's a lot of work. You know, I think anyone that's sharing that narrative that it is easy, I think it's misleading. You know, because even if you see someone having success, which appears to be overnight or somewhat quickly, you know, you just haven't seen all the work that they've been putting in behind the scenes to lead to that point. Right. I guarantee you, you know, most of the people that you see that are having quick success, it's been 10, 15, 20 years in the making. Mm-hmm. You know, me and my group of entrepreneur friends, we always talk about, you know, we started this entrepreneurial journey back in college at 18 and 19. So anything that you see now and the growth or the maturity that you see now or the success you see now, this was years in the making. We just didn't, you know, and it's years of reading, you know, personal development, you know, everyone from the John Rohns to the John C. Maxwell's to, you know, we follow guys like the Grant Cardones, everyone. We stay, you know, Les Browns, you know, we stay, you know, like you said, we're a student always. You know, you're a lifetime student. You should always be learning. You know, I read once that the average CEO reads 5, you know, to 10 books a month. You know, your wealth is in those pages, you know, so you have to constantly be learning and expanding that muscle, that brain muscle. So it's not easy. I see a lot of advertisements with all of these so-called gurus now that are sharing, you know, you can do this you can sell your art without advertising. You can sell it without an email list. You can sell it without a website. You know, your audience is your currency. Your audience is your currency. And the best way to feed your audience is through communication, whether it be social media, email, and your website. Those things are very vital to your success. And all of the Fortune 500 and 100 companies are selling you through email. Right. They're selling you through their list. And email is, you know, I share this in my course, email is 40 times more effective in sales than Facebook and Twitter combined. So, and I have a slide where I show cause. You mentioned cause. I show a slide where I have a slide where I show some, because I've purchased some things from cause. I can't, I'm not at one day I will be, I'm claiming it, but I'm not at the financial position to buy his original work or his prints, but I've bought in his, you know, coffee table books. I've bought in some of the figurines. Right. And so I'm in his list, I'm in his email list, and I receive his communication, and he's selling. Whenever he has a release, I get the email. So he's one of the highest commercially selling artists in the world. If he's using email, I'm always pushing for, you know, emerging artists. You guys got to get into it as well. You know, use email, use your website effectively. Right. You know, your main number one reason for having a website is to capture the email, not to put up a bunch of pretty pictures, you know, because what I tell people also, what's separating you from, there's a lot of there are millions of beautiful pictures on the internet every day, you know, but what's separating you from, you know, your beautiful pictures from someone else's beautiful pictures? You know, it has to be a strategic approach. It goes back to rolling your sleeves up and doing the work. It's sharing your story, a piece of your story. It's, you know, having a content strategy, all the things that, you know, we've been talking about, you've been seeing from my content, and you've been doing over the years. So it's a journey. It's a marathon.
It is. You got to keep putting yourself out there. And, you know, like I always say, people always come to me and be like, well, why are you teaching? You know, I mean, I love teaching. Well, you're doing all this work for all these people and doing all this stuff. You should be out there. And I said, you know what? When God's ready to put me out there, I'm just going to keep doing my thing, keep pushing myself, keep trying to get my work out there. And I'm putting, and putting the work in and doing the hard work.
That's it.
So when the time comes, but other than that, I mean, I'm happy. I'm blessed, and I'm gonna keep doing it no matter what. Regardless whether I become, a famous artist out there, or, art battles and all that all over the world or not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah.
Whether known gallery picks me up or whether I stay with my local gallery, Triangle Cultural Art Gallery that I'm with now. Regardless, I'm just doing the work because that's what God's got me out here doing. So
absolutely. And you create your own Basel and your own, gallery experience within your own brand. We don't, artists, especially today, we don't have to rely on the machine. We don't have to rely on the Basels and these huge galleries. You can create a movement and great income from creating your own brand and your own movement. But as we're wrapping up, Jose, how can folks find you and how can they find your art? I'm going to put up your website there, but
yeah, that's my website, and I'm on Instagram.
Social media. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Instagram under @Cruzwear Studios with an S and the number 1. I'm on Facebook just as Jose Manuel Cruz, and I'm just out there. I just try to get out there. I mean, luckily for me, like I said, being down here for 15 years in North Carolina, it's taken a minute for these establishments out here to notice me. But I've been getting noticed by Raleigh Arts. Sarah Powers is always putting my name out there when something comes up because I do a lot of street chalking. And luckily for me, I've won a lot of the contests, and I do a lot of workshops now for like the North Carolina Art Museum and the Visual Art Exchange. So, think doors open up, but like you say, you got to put the work in, and you got to get people out there to notice you, and you got to push your own self. You got to be your own motivator. Without that, no one's going to do the work for you.
That's it. Well, I appreciate you, Jose. This was a great discussion. I appreciate you sharing this time with us and sharing your story. You're a very significant, person in the art community. I love the work that you're doing. Keep, advocating, keep creating. As an educator, keep sewing into the students. We definitely need people like you in our communities. And I know it's not. I know your hard work is not going unseen, but I want to let you know I appreciate you, and I look forward to buying more of your work in the near future.
All right, sounds great. I mean, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for advocating for all the arts. I mean, we need guys like you and women that are out there doing the same thing. We need you all. So thank you so much.
Cool, very cool. I'll be in touch, man. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
All right.